Hello, everyone. This is a lightning talk about the over-the-air updates. Since this is a short one, I'll just briefly touch not all the, but a lot of different approaches how you can approach the shipping your app updates remotely. And once you get in the station when you need one, just choose whatever fits your need, and then you'll see what's going on. How it all started for me about this topic overall. So, 2025, I'm personally not that really kind of a new year, new me kind of guy, but still, I decided to build more healthy habits. And one of them was just to read more, like before going to bed, read for 10, 15 minutes. And at the end of the month, that accumulates to a significant amount of reading minutes, and you could learn something. And one of the books that I read during the preparation for this talk was The Divine Comedy by Dante. That's the literature classic. I don't know, maybe someone has read it at school or something like that. Um, and it's interesting because it's when you read it from the software engineering perspective, you learn about architecture of hell. So basically, hell consists of 9 circles, and the deeper you get, basically the worse sins you done when you were living. And what did it remind me? It's app updates. It's going through the same really relentless process of trying to prove that you are right against the app reviewers and just trying to ship your app somehow. And then I realized that wouldn't it be nice if there's a way, to ship your apps over the air without going through this painful process and just living your happy life. So that's what this talk is about shipping app updates and making that process a little bit easier for yourself. So the structure of this talk is pretty similar as the Dante's Inferno. The level one is limbo state, and from the book, this state is for people who are there just because they were not aware that heaven exists, basically. So they are just standing there, and what's next, So looking from the app updates perspective, it's about tooling or maybe currently existing SDKs that are in your app already, but you're just not using them to ship app updates remotely. So what I mean by that, for instance, talking about localizations, a very popular service for that is Crowdin. Anyone is using Crowdin or have used Crowdin? Okay, some hands. That's fine. So the main purpose of this SDK or this tool is, for not necessarily technical people to be able to update localizations in your app, whether that's product managers, the translators, and whatnot. But actually, under the hood, this SDK also provides the content delivery feature that basically ships your localization keys to the CDN network, and your app could download those values and cache them inside the app, meaning you can update all the localizations of your app remotely without needing to update the app. So if you need something very simple, just update the text of your app, basically, then you can use this, and it works fine. Um, Other similar SDKs that you could notice, let's say if you're using something for customer support like Intercom, or if you have paywalls in your app and using something like Revenue Cat, they also update this over the air web view-ish looking features that you could technically update how the view looks like for your users. Let's say in Intercom case, what are the articles there, what is the content, what's the order of that content on that page. For Revenue Cat, you could actually use the visual editor to build the whole paywall yourself and basically update it remotely without needing to update your app. And that also works remotely. And the most flexible way, which partially covers the app update process, is like when you're storing some kind of remote configuration values. The obvious first choice, let's say if you're using Firebase authentication or Firebase database, then you could use something like Firebase remote config, and basically by updating, those config values, you could update how your code looks like and how your app behaves. Just notice that this is only a configuration. So basically, the code should exist in the app already in order to adapt it or to change it. Like if you're doing a B test, or if you're just updating some kind of configuration values. And also, it shouldn't be Firebase remote config. That could be just any remote database that you're using, and you just could store a JSON object in the column of a Postgres or a MySQL. That works fine. Second level, and it's for those people who likes to go against the flow and do some worse sins in app development. It's when you are trying to uh, avoid app review process and ship new features or new logic to your apps. So one obvious choice for me in that case is web views. Um, I think that's a pretty normal and casual use case. Let's say you have already a pretty fine working web application that covers your case. So maybe that's idea for Flutter Connection conference. If you want an app, let's say you have all the speakers, agenda, maybe other content already, but you just need to build something on top of that. Maybe you just need to add push notification reminders about upcoming topics. Maybe you want to get some location services or whatnot. It's easy, relatively easy for you as a developer, to wrap this in a web view, just wrap some extra logic around it and ship it to app stores. The problem is that it's quite tricky to get through the app review process if you're shipping this kind of app, but it's possible, especially in early days. That's exactly what Notion did, because they had a web app working and they wrapped it inside Cordova at that moment and they just shipped it to app stores. It get approved, and then after the app is already there, they started working on native features more, and then they improved the app. But actually, how Notion initially was shipped to app stores was just a web view working inside the app. So if that kind of size of a company does that, maybe that works, right? Um, More Flutter-ish solution for that is using remote Flutter widgets. So for those who don't know, remote Flutter widgets basically are declarations that could be transferred to your app remotely and rendered at runtime. So if you check the code there, it looks kind of similar to the widget tree, but actually it is a bit different. Especially if you check the on-pressed events or something like that, it has some custom specifications, I would say. But this whole sheep counting app that I use before going to bed, it works, as any other counter app. But then you realize that if you count too many sheeps in the normal counter app, you cannot really fix it unless you need to ask all the sheeps to go to the yard again, and just restart the app and count them from zero. So you decide that, okay, I want to ship an app update, sorry. And now there's an option by using remote Flutter widgets to ship completely new features, and that's working pretty much as expected. The main difference from this solution comparing to the remote configuration one, by using remote Flutter widgets, you do not necessarily need to be prepared in advance and to be prepared a piece of code inside your app already before shipping it, because now you can even publish completely uh, new widgets and components that were not existing in the app beforehand. So that gives a bit more let's say, more flexibility about adding something new. So you could imagine, if you have some kind of search experience, like imagine Google, let's say, and based on your search results, let's say if you are looking for a person, you see a person's photo and its bio on the side. If you're looking for a location, maybe you have a Google Maps widget or something like that. So by using remote Flutter widgets, you could actually add new types of components as long as they're supported and ship them remotely to your app, and that works pretty well. Of course, Shorebird, that's even an extra level on top of that. First of all, you do not need any extra special configuration like remote Flutter widgets. You could just ship Dart code and that works. But of course, Shorebird is a paid service. So if that satisfies you, fine, use it. But if you want to avoid that paywall, then you need to be a bit creative and get a level deeper and maybe using remote Flutter widget and whatnot. But that's, I think, the industry standard that we have now in Flutter to do such things and ship features remotely. Lastly, about the worst sin that's ever made to any developer who existed ever, like the treason. Obviously, I'm talking about AI. Um, in the week about in this talk about Flutter Flow, uh, uh, it was described as you're using AI as a tool to build apps. But there, I'm talking more about generative UI. It's not when you're using this as a side consultant to build apps, but when generative AI or AI just decides what needs to be provided to the users. So this way, user could ask AI to get some content, and based, generative AI or AI in general has a context about user, about its data, about the UI widgets that are supported, and also the AI could have a context about the app itself. So meaning there's a never-ending circle of providing what's actually needed for that user at that specific moment. So let's say if you have a weather app, like AI could, get the location and based on that provide specific widgets that are needed for you, maybe get some kind of recommendations what to wear and what not. So that could be decided by AI. How it looks in production, imagine a situation when we have a conference speaker and you do not prepare slides in advance, so you could generate them on the fly, like about divine comedy, and just the slide content is generated in front of you, and basically you could generate the whole deck like while you are speaking. So that's what they did there. And what's generated there, if you may ask, that's just the remote Flutter widgets that I show you. It basically provides the whole content of a slide as a remote Flutter widget, and it is rendered at the runtime. As I mentioned, it's pretty short. All the presentations that I made before, and this one is already deployed on my blog. I'm happy that I could deliver this overview of what's possible for the over the air updates, and I hope that we have some time for questions. So thank you.
So, I have a first question is, in the first launch of our app, will the store bird update be considered? Store bird? Sure bird, I guess, yeah. So in the first launch of our app, will the sure bird update be considered?
It should, because now you are aware that this tool exists. In our case, let's say when I was building app for my company, that was 4 years ago now. Shorebird wasn't existing at that moment, so I didn't consider it. But it doesn't really prevent you to add the Shorebird later because it doesn't really stop you. Of course, it will. If you push the app update, it won't be updated on those previous versions that didn't support Shorebird. But after that, you should be fine.
Good. Now my favorite question will be, I don't know who asked that, but why Mangirdas loves cats?
I have a cat there. I don't know. Actually, I love dogs also, but it just happened that.
Right.
Huh? It's too late. That's right. There's no fun or any story behind it. It just was the thing that in the previous talks I just used cats as a theme for like Tinder, kind of like perfect match or something like that.
What about your T-shirt with the cat?
Oh, I had a sweatshirt with cat. Maybe
space.
that helped. It's this one, yeah.
Yeah, this one.
But I think my fiance said that it's healthy to change clothes, so yeah, it's not a thing anymore.
Kudos to your fiance.
Yeah.
That was a joking question, of course, but we have another ones. So, do you know any self-hosted remote database solutions for remote config?
Self-hosted, yeah.
Self-hosted remote database.
Any database that you could find, like Postgres, MySQL, as long as database supports JSON as a file, you could just put the static file on your web server and just download it using Get. That also works. It just, yeah. There's no solution. You just need to find a place where to store it on the server. As it was mentioned before in this conference, just if you serve it from your basement, that works.
Cool. And yeah, I won't go through all the questions, especially these joking ones, but someone, I won't point to the person, would love to see you give a talk with all the slides generated by AI on the go.
Good question. So that's the idea that maybe I will implement for this year's Flutter and Friends conference. And there's a thing as slides karaoke, where you basically only have a topic, but you don't know what are the slides behind this topic. So I thought it would be nice if this would be generated on the spot. So we'll see how it goes.
Cool. Yeah, I think to save everyone's time, I will give a round of applause to Mangirdas.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.